Welcome, and pause here for a moment. This episode is not comfort, it's a signal. It reflects something you may have been avoiding, and reveals a quiet truth most people live their entire lives without understanding. We live in a world where everyone is encouraged to speak, constantly, to explain themselves, to share their plans, their struggles, their emotions, their private lives. And yet, many people feel more drained, more distracted, and more misunderstood than ever before. They talk more, but move less. They share more, but grow slower. If you've ever felt stuck right after telling people your plans, if you've ever regretted opening up too soon, if you've ever noticed that the loudest voices rarely have the strongest results, this episode is for you. Today, we're exploring a forgotten skill: silence. Not silence as weakness, but silence as preparation, as protection, as power. You'll learn why saying less can help you build more, think clearer, and move stronger, both in life and in how you use English. So stay with me, because some of the most important changes don't begin with speaking. They begin when you stop. Focus, discipline, and inner growth are not built in noise. They are shaped in quiet moments, when no one is watching and nothing is being praised. Yet most people today try to grow in public. They announce their goals early, explain their plans often, and look for encouragement before they have done the work. This habit feels motivating at first, but it slowly weakens the very foundation they are trying to build. When you speak too much about what you want to do, something subtle happens in your mind. Your brain receives a small sense of completion, as if progress has already been made. The urgency softens, the pressure disappears, and without pressure, discipline fades. You feel busy, but you are not focused. You feel involved, but you are not improving. Silence removes that illusion. When you keep your goals to yourself, there is no shortcut to satisfaction, no early reward, no applause. The only way forward is action. You wake up knowing that nothing has changed yet. That quiet tension creates focus. It sharpens your attention. It forces you to show up, even when motivation is low, because no one else knows what you are working toward. Discipline grows the same way. When there is no audience, excuses lose their power. You cannot perform confidence. You cannot talk your way out of effort. It becomes a private agreement between you and yourself. Either you do the work, or nothing moves forward. This is where real discipline is formed, not through inspiration, but through repetition in silence. Silence also creates space, and space is necessary for inner growth. In constant noise, you are always reacting. Messages, opinions, advice, comparisons. Your thoughts are interrupted before they are fully formed. But when you reduce what you say and what you share, your inner voice becomes clearer. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking. You start to understand what truly matters to you, not what impresses others. This is where growth becomes stable. Instead of chasing validation, you build direction. Instead of copying others, you develop your own rhythm. Silence allows you to study yourself honestly, your habits, your weaknesses, your distractions, without judgment from the outside world. That self-awareness is the root of long-term improvement. Many people believe confidence comes from being seen. In reality, confidence is built when you trust yourself without being watched, when you know you can work consistently without praise, when you can continue even if no one notices. This is why so many strong people go through quiet seasons, not because they are lost, but because they are preparing. They are simplifying their world so their mind can sharpen. They are protecting their attention so their energy can grow. Silence is not emptiness, it is structure. It is the environment where focus deepens, discipline hardens, and inner growth becomes unshakable. If you want lasting change, begin here, not by speaking louder, but by working quietly, until your results no longer need an introduction. Mental strength is often misunderstood. Many people believe it comes from expressing everything they feel or reacting immediately to every situation. In reality, emotional strength is built when you learn how to pause. Silence becomes a form of training, teaching your mind that not every feeling needs a response. Most people are not exhausted because life is difficult. They are exhausted because they react to everything. A comment triggers anger. Silence from someone else creates insecurity. Criticism leads to long explanations. Each reaction pulls energy from the mind until emotional balance slowly disappears. Over time, this constant reaction creates anxiety, frustration, and inner chaos. Silence interrupts this cycle. When you choose not to react immediately, you give your nervous system time to settle. You feel the emotion, but you don't let it control your behavior. This pause is powerful. It tells your brain that you are not in danger simply because something feels uncomfortable. And that message builds resilience. Self-control grows through resistance. Just as muscles strengthen under tension, the mind becomes stronger when it learns to hold emotions without releasing them impulsively. When you stay quiet during moments of anger, confusion, or misunderstanding, you train yourself to remain stable under pressure. This does not mean suppressing emotions. Suppression ignores feelings. Silence observes them. You still notice the anger. You still feel the disappointment. But instead of turning those emotions into words, arguments, or explanations, you process them internally. You allow them to pass without feeding them. And emotions that are not fed slowly lose their intensity. This is why silence creates emotional maturity. People who overshare their pain often stay trapped in it. Repeating the story keeps the wound open. Complaining reinforces identity around suffering. But when you stop narrating every struggle, you stop rehearsing it. The mind shifts from reaction to reflection. With time, something important changes. Other people lose their ability to control your emotional state. Their opinions no longer decide your mood. Their misunderstandings no longer demand an explanation. You begin to respond intentionally instead of reacting automatically. This inner calm is often misunderstood as weakness. In truth, it is authority. Calmness signals self-possession. It shows that your emotions belong to you, not to the situation or the people around you. Emotionally strong individuals do not need to prove themselves. They don't rush to defend their image. They don't chase understanding from everyone. They observe. They wait. And when they speak, their words carry weight because they are not driven by impulse. Silence also protects your peace. When you stop giving emotional access to everyone, there is nothing for others to manipulate. No dramatic reaction to enjoy. No vulnerability to exploit. Your inner world becomes less accessible and therefore more secure. This is how emotional strength is built, quietly, repeatedly, and intentionally. Not by becoming cold, not by becoming distant, but by mastering your inner reactions. And once you reach that level of control, life becomes less chaotic. You move through pressure with stability. You face conflict without losing yourself. You remain calm while others are overwhelmed. Silence teaches the mind a simple truth. You don't need to react to survive. And that understanding changes everything. Dreams are powerful, but they are also fragile, especially in the beginning. Most people think motivation grows when goals are shared, discussed, and celebrated early. In reality, many goals die not because they are impossible, but because they are exposed too soon. Silence is not hiding a dream. Silence is how a dream survives long enough to become real. When you speak about a goal before you act on it, your mind receives a false signal. It feels like progress has already happened. You get encouragement, attention, and sometimes praise. That small reward relaxes the urgency inside you. The hunger weakens. The pressure disappears. And without pressure, discipline fades. Silence removes that shortcut. When no one knows what you are working on, the only way to feel progress is through real effort. There is no approval to rely on, no excitement to borrow, just quiet responsibility. You either move forward or nothing changes. That environment forces consistency. Sharing too early also invites doubt. Even well-meaning people often project their fears onto your vision. They ask questions you're not ready to answer. They warn you about risks you already know exist. Slowly, their voices mix with your own thoughts. Confidence becomes hesitation. Momentum turns into overthinking. Silence protects your direction. Think of a dream like a seed. In its early stage, it needs darkness, patience, and protection. If you dig it up repeatedly to show others, it never develops roots. Growth happens underground first, unseen and uncelebrated. Goals work the same way. They need time to strengthen before facing opinions, comparisons, and expectations. A young man once decided he wanted to change his career. He told everyone immediately. He spoke about it with excitement. People listened, nodded, and asked questions. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. Months passed. He felt embarrassed. Quietly, he returned to the life he said he would leave. He never lacked ability. He lost momentum before he started. This is the danger of speaking too soon. When your words move faster than your actions, they become a trap. Every update becomes pressure. Every delay becomes shame. Silence avoids this entirely. There is no audience to disappoint, no image to maintain, only progress to focus on. Silence also protects you from comparison. Once others know your plans, they measure you against their timelines, their standards, their results. You begin running someone else's race. Quiet goals grow at their own pace. People often say, "I want support." What they usually want is reassurance. But reassurance cannot replace discipline. Silence teaches you to rely on yourself first, to build strength before seeking recognition. And when results finally appear, they speak clearly, without explanation. You don't need to announce what you are building. You don't need to update anyone on your progress. You don't need permission to work quietly. Protect your goals by limiting access. Let them develop without interruption. Let action introduce them to the world. Because when your work becomes visible, it no longer needs defending. And when success arrives without warning, it carries more weight. Silence does not delay achievement. It protects it. When people hear the idea of staying quiet, they often think it only applies to goals, ambition, or personal growth. But one of the areas most damaged by oversharing is relationships. Many connections don't fall apart because of betrayal or lack of love. They weaken because too many voices are invited into what should have remained private. Modern culture encourages constant exposure. Feelings are posted. Conflicts are discussed publicly. Private moments are shared for validation. At first, this feels harmless. It feels open and honest. But slowly, something important is lost. Intimacy depends on safety, and safety disappears when everything becomes public. When a relationship is exposed to opinions, comparisons, and judgment, it stops being a space for growth. It becomes a performance. Partners start reacting to outside voices instead of listening to each other. Trust weakens, not because of dishonesty, but because boundaries no longer exist. Silence restores those boundaries. Keeping parts of your relationship private does not mean hiding or being dishonest. It means choosing where honesty belongs. Real communication happens between the people involved, not with spectators. When problems are discussed with everyone else, resolution becomes harder, not easier. Oversharing conflicts is especially damaging. Once others hear only one side of the story, they form conclusions that remain even after the issue is resolved. Forgiveness happens between two people, but public memory lingers. Silence prevents this lasting damage. Privacy also protects respect. When a partner knows their vulnerabilities will not be shared casually, trust deepens. Emotional safety grows when people feel protected, not exposed. This safety allows honesty without fear of embarrassment or betrayal. Strong relationships often appear quiet from the outside, not because they lack connection, but because they don't seek attention. They don't need constant proof. They don't invite approval. Their strength comes from consistency, not visibility. Silence also prevents emotional manipulation. When emotions are broadcast openly, others gain influence over them. Opinions create doubt. Advice creates confusion. Judgment creates insecurity. By limiting access, you preserve clarity. This applies not only to romantic relationships, but to friendships and family bonds as well. Not every disagreement needs an audience. Not every emotion needs a witness. Not every detail needs to be explained. Silence is not emotional distance. It is emotional discipline. It teaches you to sit with feelings instead of projecting them outward. It encourages resolution instead of validation. It replaces reaction with reflection. Over time, this approach creates maturity in how you connect with others. Love grows in protected spaces. Trust strengthens behind closed doors. Respect survives when boundaries are clear. Relationships are fragile when exposed constantly, like fire in strong wind, but when shielded, they burn steadily and warmly. Silence becomes the barrier that protects what matters. You don't need to announce happiness to make it real. You don't need public sympathy to heal. You don't need outside voices to manage private bonds. Protect what gives you peace. Some connections are strongest not because they are seen, but because they are guarded with care. Power is often misunderstood. Many people associate it with visibility, influence, or the ability to dominate conversations. But real power is quieter. It lives in control, focus, and the ability to move without needing approval. Silence is one of the strongest ways to protect that power. Every unnecessary explanation costs energy. Every argument drains focus. Every public announcement exposes intention. These losses seem small, but over time they weaken your mental strength. You begin spending more energy on talking about your direction than actually moving in it. Silence stops that leakage. When you speak less, your energy remains concentrated. You are no longer defending your choices or justifying your pace. Your attention stays aligned with your purpose. This alignment is where power grows, internally, steadily, and without interruption. There is also psychological weight in silence. People pay closer attention to those who do not rush to speak. When words are rare, they carry more meaning. When reactions are controlled, presence becomes stronger. Silence creates authority without force. Power is not loud, it is stable. Explaining yourself often comes from a need to be understood. But understanding cannot be forced. The more you explain, the more room you give for judgment, disagreement, or manipulation. Silence removes that opening. It keeps your inner world protected from unnecessary interference. This is why many high performers operate quietly. They focus on preparation, not announcement. They invest in execution, not explanation. Their confidence does not come from attention, but from consistency. Silence also preserves emotional energy. Arguments pull you into cycles that solve nothing. Public debates create stress without progress. By choosing not to engage, you remain centered. You decide where your energy goes. Control over energy is control over direction. There is a difference between being invisible and being intentional. Silence does not mean withdrawal. It means selectivity. You choose when to speak and when to act. You choose which conversations matter and which do not. People who talk constantly often feel drained. They seek validation, approval, and reaction. People who move quietly conserve strength. They build momentum instead of noise. Another important aspect of power is unpredictability. When others know your every thought, move, or plan, they gain leverage. Silence keeps your next step protected. It prevents interference. It allows you to move freely without expectation. Results are the purest form of communication. They require no explanation. When progress is visible, words become unnecessary. Silence allows results to arrive without pressure. Power is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself. When you master silence, you master your reactions, your attention, and your direction. You stop wasting energy on proving your worth. You let your actions demonstrate it. Silence is not passive. It is strategic. It protects your focus. It preserves your strength. It sharpens your presence. The strongest individuals in any room are rarely the loudest. They are the ones who move deliberately, speak with purpose, and act with precision. By saying less, you keep more. One of the most difficult lessons in life is understanding that closeness is not the same as safety. Many people believe that if someone is part of their life, family, friends, colleagues, or even a partner, that person deserves full access to their thoughts, struggles, plans, and emotions. This belief feels honest, but it often leads to regret. Silence teaches discernment. Every time you share something personal, you are not just speaking, you are handing someone influence. Their reaction, opinion, or judgment enters your mind and shapes how you feel about your path. When shared with the wrong person, even a small comment can weaken confidence and slow progress. Not everyone who listens is prepared to carry your truth responsibly. Some people genuinely support you. They respect boundaries and protect what you share. These individuals are rare. Others don't intend harm, but they are careless. They talk without thinking. They share without permission. They offer advice without understanding. And then there are those who quietly compete, compare, or resent. They smile, but they don't want you to grow beyond them. Silence protects you from all three risks. A young woman once decided she wanted to learn a new skill and change her career. She worked quietly for months, practicing every night after work. One evening, she shared her plan with someone she trusted. The response was simple. "That's unrealistic." She smiled and changed the subject. That night, she didn't practice. For weeks, the sentence stayed in her mind, not because it was true, but because it was spoken too early. Eventually, she returned to her work, this time without telling anyone. Years later, her results spoke for her. This is not about blaming others. It is about timing and boundaries. Your ideas are most vulnerable before they are proven. Your healing is most delicate before it is complete. Your confidence is weakest before it has evidence. Silence gives these parts of you time to strengthen. Think of your mind as a private space. When you invite people in, they leave something behind: support, confusion, doubt, or pressure. The more visitors you allow, the harder it becomes to maintain clarity. Silence limits access so you can think clearly and move forward without distraction. Being selective does not mean becoming distant or cold. It means becoming intentional. You don't need to explain your journey to everyone. You don't need validation to continue. You don't need approval to progress. Trust should be earned through consistency, respect, and maturity, not assumed because of familiarity. Silence also protects momentum. When too many opinions enter your process, direction blurs. You start adjusting your path to satisfy others. Quiet work keeps your vision intact. Ask yourself before you share: does this person have the capacity to protect this information? Will their response strengthen me or slow me down? If the answer is unclear, silence is the safer choice. Privacy is not fear. It is self-respect. When you guard your inner world, you create a stable environment for growth. You move forward with fewer interruptions. You stay connected to your purpose instead of reacting to noise. Not everyone needs to know what you are becoming. They will see it when it is ready. Silence ensures you get there first. In a world where people constantly reveal their thoughts, emotions, and plans, mystery has become rare. And because it is rare, it is powerful. Silence creates that mystery. It removes predictability, limits interference, and places you in a position of quiet advantage. People feel comfortable when they understand others. When they can read intentions, anticipate reactions, and predict behavior, they feel in control. This is why oversharing feels normal. It reduces uncertainty. But when you stop explaining everything, you change the balance. Others no longer know your next move, and that uncertainty shifts power back to you. Silence creates space for observation. When you speak less, you listen more. You notice patterns in behavior. You see how people react when they don't have access to your thoughts. This awareness sharpens judgment. It allows you to respond strategically instead of emotionally. Predictability weakens influence. When others know exactly how you will respond, they adjust their behavior accordingly. Silence disrupts this pattern. Without information, people guess. And guessing leads to mistakes. Mystery does not require manipulation. It requires restraint. By limiting what you reveal, you protect your leverage. Your goals remain undisclosed. Your emotions remain controlled. Your direction remains private. This makes it difficult for others to interfere, copy, or influence your progress. In communication, silence increases weight. When you speak constantly, words lose impact. When you speak selectively, people pay attention. Your presence becomes stronger because it is not diluted by unnecessary explanation. Mystery also protects emotional boundaries. When people cannot easily read your emotional state, they lose the ability to provoke or pressure you. Calm becomes a form of authority. Others respond to it instinctively. Silence does not mean absence. It means precision. You choose when to speak, what to reveal, and what to keep private. This control changes how people interact with you. They become more careful, more attentive, more respectful. In professional environments, mystery protects strategy. Without access to your plans, competitors cannot respond early. Your actions arrive without warning, and impact replaces announcement. In personal life, mystery prevents manipulation. When every emotion is visible, influence is easy. When emotions are managed internally, control returns to you. Silence also reduces distraction. The fewer conversations you engage in, the fewer opinions you absorb. Focus improves when attention is not scattered. Mystery allows growth to happen quietly. Progress unfolds without pressure. Results appear without explanation. There is strength in being unreadable. It creates stability. It builds confidence that does not depend on reaction. It allows movement without resistance. Silence is not secrecy. It is strategy. When people don't know your next step, they cannot block it. When they cannot read your emotions, they cannot control them. When they cannot predict your behavior, they must adjust to you. That is the advantage of mystery. Speak with purpose. Move without announcement. Let silence shape your strength. By now, one truth should be clear. Silence is not avoidance. It is intention. It is a conscious choice to protect what matters most. Yet understanding the value of silence is not enough. You also need clarity about what should never be shared, no matter how close someone feels or how safe the moment seems. Some information, once released, cannot be recovered. Words travel. Opinions form. Perceptions harden. Silence exists to prevent damage before it begins. The first thing that must remain protected is your next move. Goals spoken too early lose strength. They invite comparison, judgment, and distraction. Action creates reality, not discussion. Until something is complete, it remains vulnerable. Silence gives it time to solidify. Second, protect your finances. Money changes relationships. When income, success, or resources become visible, expectations shift. Resentment grows quietly. Attention attracts the wrong motivations. Stability is easier to maintain when wealth is not announced. True security does not require display. Third, guard your deepest pain. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as strength. While sharing can be healing in the right space, exposure without boundaries creates risk. Some people sympathize. Others store your pain as information. Healing requires safety, not performance. Silence allows wounds to close without pressure. Fourth, keep your love life private. Intimacy weakens when exposed to constant observation. Opinions interfere. Comparison erodes trust. Relationships thrive in protected environments where problems are solved internally, not discussed publicly. Privacy preserves respect. Fifth, respect your family's story. Background, struggles, and history shape you, but they do not define you. Sharing these details publicly invites judgment and misunderstanding. Growth should be visible through action, not explanation. Silence does not erase truth, it controls access to it. Not everyone deserves the full version of your life. Closeness does not equal readiness. Trust must be proven through consistency, discretion, and maturity. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. Silence allows you to move without carrying the weight of outside expectations. It keeps your focus intact. It prevents unnecessary influence. It preserves dignity. When you stop explaining yourself, you regain time. When you stop sharing everything, you regain control. When you stop seeking validation, you regain clarity. Silence becomes a personal code, a way of living that values depth over noise, direction over approval, and progress over performance. You don't need to announce growth. You don't need to justify distance. You don't need permission to protect your peace. Silence sharpens. Silence strengthens. Silence builds. In a world driven by exposure, choosing privacy is an act of wisdom. When your life improves quietly, results arrive without explanation. Let silence guard what is sacred. Silence is not something you run away into. It is something you return to. In a world that rewards noise, choosing quiet is a decision to protect your focus, your energy, and your future. You've seen how silence builds discipline, strengthens the mind, protects relationships, and guards what is sacred. Not by hiding, but by choosing depth over display. You don't need to explain your journey to everyone. You don't need to announce your progress. You don't need permission to grow quietly. Let your life speak when it is ready. Let your results arrive without warning. Let your calm become your strength. From this moment on, move with intention. Share less. Observe more. Build privately. And when the time comes, let your actions say everything words never could. This is not about being invisible. It's about becoming undeniable. Stay focused. Stay grounded. And remember, some of the strongest moves in life are made in silence.